I spend almost all of my time on people, strategy, and execution. And I think that most everything else falls from those. If you have the most brilliant people, wicked smart people that collaborate well together, if you set in our case, we're all about products. So our strategy is very product oriented. If that strategy is right, and if you're executing like crazy, there's some things that still arise, but if you get those three right, then the world is good.
I get up in the morning, and many other people get up in the morning to change things. I mean, that's who we are as a company. That hasn't changed. That will always. We may change other things. We may become more open. We may participate in these things that we haven't done before. But what drives us are making great products that enrich people's lives. It's the same thing that's driven Apple forever. I was at Compaq at a time where the objective was to become a $40 billion company. Well, employees don't get excited about that. This isn't something you wake up and you go, I'm going to take the hill today to do 40. You know, it's just not that. But changing the world. These are the things that people work for, and this pushes people. Sometimes...
Did you think you were going to be here? Where did you think you were headed in your life? This is what these students are dealing with right now.
In 1982, I was about 21 years old and coming out of undergraduate school. And the key thing I wanted to do was fairly selfish at that time. I wanted to find a job that I loved. And I wanted to love the work that I did. I no longer have that goal. But that was sort of my focus and objective, was to come out and get a job that I loved, because I had grown up in a very lower middle class family. My dad was a shipbuilder and very blue collar background, and I saw my dad go to work and not love what he did. He worked for his family and poured his life in so that we'd have a great family life. But he never loved what he did. And so I wanted to get a job that I loved. And by the time I was in Duke, I had worked 6 years or so out of undergraduate school. I went to Duke, and I had begun to think through, what is my purpose in life? And I was struggling with a lot of things, both personally and professionally at that time. And it began to dawn on me then that the purpose of life wasn't to love your job. It was to serve humanity in a broad way. And that the outcome of doing that would mean that you would love your job. And I began to realize I wasn't in a place to do that. And sometime thereafter, I began to switch companies and jobs and sort of be on this search. And then one day, out of the blue, Steve has come back to Apple and essentially fired everybody that was working for him at that time. And so he began to recruit. I'd never met Steve before. And it was only after joining Apple where my values and my work aligned. And that has made all the difference for me. And so if you want to go to the stagecoach to the car, somebody's not likely to come up with the car. If you want to go from the Sony Walkman to the iPod, someone's not likely to come up with the iPod. And so, but the thing that you have to do is, your focus group is yourself. You should make products that you want to use. And you not just want to use, but you love. And you can bet that if you love it, there are many other people out there that will love it too. And so that fundamental thing drives Apple. Now, in addition to that, because we do make mistakes on some things that we ship and so forth, and so you always want to stay close to your customers and listen to them and be very accessible to them. One of the key reasons we have retail stores is to touch our customer and hear from them. One of the reasons that I get up at ungodly hours is I like to spend my first hour going through customer emails, right? Because I want to know what they're saying. I want to know what they're feeling. And so these touch points, not just those two, but many throughout the company are truly important. But for you starting a business, if that is your goal, my recommendation is recruit the friends of yours who are not like you. If you're in engineering, make sure you get somebody from the liberal arts. If you're from the UK, make sure you get somebody from the Middle East or from China, or from America, or wherever. Find people that are different than you, and where the common thread is they want to change the world, and they want to change the world by creating the product or service that you also want. And if you can find that collection of people, and it can start really small, it might start with 2 or 3 people. That is the kernel of a successful company.
And different people have different ways to be resilient. What are your ways of being resilient in the face of less than positive outcomes?
I keep this voice in my ear that says, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And I have faith that it will. There will be times that you fail on a spectacular basis. I've certainly done it more than once. And in some ways, I have little failures every day, right? But you have to have the faith that it will pass, that it's not detrimental. And the only thing you have to do to remember that is to look in the mirror and watch the person breathe. It didn't kill you. You're not dead. And so it's not the biggest thing in the world. It will pass. And I do that many times a day sometimes when things aren't going well. I remember that they will pass. And once you do that for a while, you won't have to remind yourself anymore. You will be able to take these failures, and in fact, you'll kind of view them not as failures anymore. You'll start calling them things you learned. It won't be so detrimental anymore. And that is exactly how it is.
So you have to be inspired, in part inspired by the people around you. But where do you draw inspiration?
What I do is I look to heroes, and I look to how our products are used. So I like to go out and meet with artists, to meet with people that are using our products. I like to meet with the doctor that's using our products. I like to meet with the musician who's using our products to create music. Someone who is using the tools that we made to do something big in the world, to change the world in some way, to heal, to teach. Those things, I get very passionate on human rights. I have a photo of Dr. King on my wall. I have a photo of Bobby Kennedy on my wall, and I think about what they did, what they achieved in their lifetimes, and that they were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice of their own lives in the advancement of human rights. And when you look at it like that, speaking out on things that make you uncomfortable doesn't seem like that big a thing anymore. There's a difference. If I would be willing to say, get out if you don't treat each other with dignity and respect, you need to leave. If you're in a position where you're deciding people's future and you're deciding in a biased way, you need to leave after the hanging in the quad, right? But I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I think we have to allow for disagreement. And so we have to say, you know, we're running Apple, our goal is to run Apple on 100% renewable energy, because we think that's really important in our goal to leave the world better than we found it. It's okay if we have an engineer over somewhere that says, I don't believe in climate change, and I think you're doing the wrong thing. I support people having a different view. I don't support someone, their behavior, I support their opinion, right? And there's a difference. I think there's a huge distinction there, right? And you know, I think you have to allow for different opinions, and not only allow, but foster them. And that's how all of us get better, is to hear somebody beside us say, I view that differently.
Business schools talk about leadership all the time. And I think we use it as the capital L leader, like CEO leader. But if you're working on a small team, you have to lead that team too. In your community group, you have to be a leader. What are your tips about leadership, not CEO leadership, because not too many of the folks around here, you know, are going to become CEOs of Apple. Maybe one someday, but they will be leaders in lots of other contexts.
Yeah, of course. First of all, I think leadership is fluid. There's I think some people get tripped up on that leadership is a sort of a static thing, or that the manager is the leader. And we don't run Apple like that. And so leadership moves and goes to and fro, because the truth is that depending upon what a team is doing, the person to lead may change. And so sometimes this person may be leading, sometimes they may be in a supportive role. And so I actually think it's very important that everyone have leadership skills. That it's not just for people that want to manage or want the people management side. People that want to stay in a pure technical field need leadership skills to do well.
What are some hints to young people about leadership?
Leadership is about surrounding yourselves with the right people. First of all, leadership is about people. Leadership is about how you communicate. Leadership is sitting in a meeting when there's 5 of you around the table and 3 people are talking a lot but one is quiet. Leadership is asking that person that's quiet what they're thinking, because there may be a reason they're not speaking. Maybe it's the only person, maybe it's the only woman in the room. That happens all too often in the tech field. Maybe it's someone that just feels shy on that topic or whatever. Or maybe it's someone that has a different opinion that doesn't want to express it. So I think leadership is drawing out people, because it's the combination of people that amplify performance. None of us have an S on our chest and a cape on our back. None of us do. The only way that we do great work is if we collectively do our best work and amplify each other. To me, leadership is that amplification. It's figuring out everything you need to do with the people you work with to amplify their performance. And it's maybe different for one person versus the other, right?